Hello and welcome to Property Question Time. My name's Stephen Galpin and this is the programme where you can have all of your property related questions answered by our team of property experts. Joining me today are Hayley Andrews, property investor, mentor and CEO of Your Freedom Empire. Hi Hayley.
Hi.
Good to see you. Good trip down?
Yes, very nice.
Great
Good
stuff.
to be back.
How is Birmingham?
Awesome, as always.
Is that why you've got a suntan?
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Garden tan.
All right, well, very good to see you anyway.
Thank you.
And also on your right and on my left, John Howard, property developer, author and public speaker, and pretty well expert on all property matters, I would say.
It's very nice of you to say so. Thank you very much.
Well, it's because you're always so horrible to me. Trying to get the tenor of the programme right. No, good to have you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in. What we're going to do is start off with Hayley. You're having the first question, which is, do the panel think that the trend of moving away from the city centre living will continue post-COVID, or will the attractions of the city lure people back to the areas that have been historically popular?
So I personally don't think that the trend will continue. I think that if you were to look at data, it would suggest that actually people have started to move back anyway. So I think we've spoken about this on a show before, but it's almost people fleeing the city centres is kind of looking in the rearview mirror now. I think from a convenience point of view, the centres will always attract young professionals, people that are looking, especially if you're looking at London and places like that. They want to be close to where everything's happening, you know, better transport links, better employment, higher income, better nightlife, social life overall, and better career opportunities. So I think even if it does continue short term, which, like I said, data over the last 12 months and the last month, which suggests that actually it's going back the other way, and that's almost looking in the rearview mirror now, I think it will always attract people back to the city centres.
I've got a feeling that in 12 months' time we'll have forgotten all about this.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think it's a little bit like, if you use an example in London, you have Mayfair and Marylebone, which are almost together. And what you find is there's an exodus from Mayfair into Marylebone, because people say, wow, this is amazing value and it's only 20 yards from Mayfair. Yeah. Everybody treks over to Marylebone and then the prices go up and everybody says all of a sudden, wow, so cheap in Mayfair compared with here. And they go
ripple effect, isn't it?
Back again. And I think that's what's going to happen. And I think all of those that work in offices or work in office environments, you know, we've been missing the coffee shops, we've been missing the lunches out.
I think to a point, Stephen, but I think, you know, with all due respect to both of you, you live in a fantastic city. I'm not just saying because you live there in Birmingham, but also I've got a development there I'm trying to sell at the moment. So, but it is a great city. It's a great city. And also, you know, London, you know, fantastic, the best city in the world probably. But, you know, there is life outside Birmingham and there is life outside
You're going to suggest Ipswich, aren't you?
No, not just Ipswich, but I would say is that we have seen a lot of people, the older generation, perhaps who can financially afford to move out of London, cash in, move out, are moving out. I think for the younger people, I think Hayley's absolutely right. City centre living, why wouldn't you? When you get to your 30s, to your 40s, naturally, a lot of people settle down and they tend to move out anyway, to be fair. But from an environmental point of view, of course, it's great that people, and family life, that people don't want to, don't have to go into London every day. And as I said to you, Stephen, before, you know, your grandchildren will ask you the question in a few years' time, are you really saying that people used to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get the train to London, and then come back at 6:30 at night, then get back on it again at 6 o'clock in the morning? They'll think they're crackers. They'll think they're crackers, I'm sure of it.
Tell me, John, your agencies, which are countryside based, are they still seeing the influx of people from London buying in the countryside?
Well, 60,000 people left London in the last 6 months to buy outside London, which is a record since 2003. Why in 2003? I don't know why so many left, but they did. What I would say, it's lack of stock is stopping people now rather than lack of wanting to move. But of course, people are a little bit like sheep. You know, once a few people do it, their friends do it, they all then tend to. But they're all of a certain age. That's what I would say. And Hayley's absolutely right with younger people, totally right. But the older people certainly, you know, they were going to move anyway. Probably they just bought it 4 to 5 years. Probably that's how I see it.
And what effect is it having on prices?
Oh well, prices have gone up something like between 15 and 20%
Really?
In parts of Norfolk and Suffolk.
Do you see that maintaining?
I still think that Suffolk and Norfolk are relatively good value for money. So, you know, compare that to what Cornwall's gone up even. Clearly, like Cornwall have just gone up probably 50% in the last 4 years, or something crazy in some parts of Cornwall. And I don't see that happening, but I can see why certainly Norfolk and Suffolk would remain very, very strong. I think I'll put it like that. But, you know, we don't know what the market's going to do next year. I mean, we could be in for a very tough time in the next 24 months if we're not careful, I think.
Well, it's the longevity of the market as it is at the moment. I mean, I've been surprised how well it's maintained
For sure.
over the last 18 months. So it's been quite amazing to me. I thought we'd take a real hit.
I did.
But the agents tell me that they're busy.
Lack of stock is the only reason why.
Yeah.
I mean, our sales now have fallen off from where they were because of stamp duty and so on. And by the way, I don't know about you, Hayley, but I don't think Rishi Sunak needed to do anything with stamp duty. I think the market was already coming back from what I see.
Yeah.
And I really don't see why he did that. I think he didn't need to.
No.
I think it did help though, didn't it? I mean, it definitely increased demand, and people that perhaps were thinking to move in a few years
gave them the extra
took
push,
advantage.
probably,
I think it made him very popular, and I think it helped a number of people. I think.
If you want to be Prime Minister one day.
Well, I suppose so, but I just wonder how popular he's going to be when he tries to get all this money back. That's
very few chancellors make good Prime Ministers.
I think you might be right. Okay, John, thank you for that. Hayley, thank you.
That was supposed to be my question.
Well, you have to jump in on mine. Hayley, jump in on mine. Jump in on mine.
I think that's why I'm thanking you both. Anyway, John, your question now. So it'll cost you in terms of time, so don't worry.
I thought that was coming.
Right. With the COVID pandemic causing a limit on travelling and the adoption of Zoom communications, do the panel think that travel-related infrastructure projects like HS2, for example, offer the same value as they did pre-COVID?
Well, this really is a question for Hayley. Because I know you are, because HS2 is all about Birmingham really and beyond, rather than London.
Well, you say beyond. I see on the news the other day they've actually cancelled now the eastern leg.
The Leeds section,
the Leeds section,
because of the money. It's just so much money, and I have to say they're not talking about it being ready for 10 years. In 10 years, are we going to be in cars that drive remotely? Who knows? My battery car I'm buying shortly, will that still be going in 10 years? Probably not. It'll probably be back to some sort of other fuel, hydrogen or something like that. Who knows? I just think the problem with the project is that it's so long-winded. It's so long-winded. You know, who knows what we're going to be. Things are changing. I went to a dinner with Michael Gove, and he spoke for an hour and a half off the cuff. And he said, this generation now, said in the next 5 years, the changes are going to be so dramatic for everything. And you can see it in everyday life. It's changing dramatically that actually HS2 is going to be out of date within 10 years, you know, surely, isn't it? I don't know. Hayley?
I don't know. I mean, it's anyone's guess, isn't it? Like you said, we don't know what's going to happen. Right now, obviously, it's great positive for Birmingham because of getting into London.
You say that, Hayley. You've driven down today to come and see us. Would you continue to drive down, or would you use HS2?
I would probably use HS2. Yeah.
Well,
it's less than less than 38 minutes into Waterloo, isn't it?
I think that's right, but you also haven't heard the cost yet of what a train ticket's going to cost.
No, but if you weigh up the cost, so I think where it will go is you've got a lot of businesses and a lot of people that live in London that will actually now look at moving to Birmingham as a result of HS2. And I think the reason they will do that is obviously you get much more for your money in Birmingham than you do in London, and you can then commute quicker from Birmingham to London than you can if you live inside the M25. And I think that is going to be the positive for Birmingham.
I think you're absolutely right. Also, people forget Birmingham Airport.
Yeah,
Birmingham
that's
Airport, international airport. It's 50% capacity before COVID.
Mm.
So it's got bags of capacity. Why bother giving Heathrow another runway when you've got an airport which is going to be how much further? 30 minutes?
I mean, the flight consequences to Heathrow for the people that live around there. I can remember looking at buying a house near on the Heathrow run near Windsor. And I said to the chap, "Do the flights affect you at all?" And he said, no, not at all. Well, all of a sudden, it went dark. There was something like Batman flying over sort of.
They don't make a huge noise, but they cover the...
They covered the light.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's quite disruptive.
But they're going to be batteries, aren't they? Surely, battery planes soon, surely. I'd have thought so.
Well,
coming soon.
I was watching a programme.
We may be teleporting in 10 years.
Maybe, yeah. But I was watching a programme on Concorde last night, and they say they've now invented or designed a new sort of Concorde replacement, which is a small jet which will travel at sort of Mach 2.
And you think how advanced was Concorde when you think about it? 3 hours to New York, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you go on it?
I've been on Concorde, yes, but not to New York. No. But no, I mean, things will change very, very quickly. But I like you, John, I just think the budget for this HS2 is outrageous. I mean, it started off at 25 billion, you're now at 100 and something billion.
And the thing is that governments, by their own admission, are very poor at managing infrastructure.
Yeah.
They really are naive and poor at it. And like you said, by the time it's done, what's going to happen? The one thing that the good news for people, I think, probably is that what it will do, properties in London are 6 times more expensive on the whole, on average, than anywhere else in the country, bar, say, Cornwall or somewhere like Sandbanks or somewhere. So I think what it will do, this will maybe even up things a little bit, and that's what the government want. Of course, they want the north to come up a bit and the south to settle down a bit, and try and even up property prices.
So in the last 10 seconds of this half of the programme, shall we just try and answer the question?
What was the question?
Will these projects offer the same value as they did pre-COVID?
I
In a
doubt
word.
they will. No, sadly.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, that's all we've got time for in this half of the show. Join me again after the break with Hayley and John, where we'll be answering more of your questions. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time. Joining me are John Howard and Hayley Andrews. I'm Stephen Galpin, and here are your second questions. So Hayley, the property market has, according to the agents and press pundits, held up very well throughout the last year. We've had lockdown difficulties, of course. Is this simply as a result of frustration, boredom, and buyers just seeking a change of living environment? Or do the experts see an upward trend continuing for the foreseeable future? Now, I know we've touched on this in our previous answers, but that's quite a broad question.
It is. It's an opinion, isn't it? Okay. So I think it is partly due to the pent-up demand. So that's been driving the property market, this mass movement of people looking for more space, wanting to move out of the cities and things like that. Or to bigger properties, rethinking their location overall. But it's a cocktail of many different things. So you had the stamp duty holiday, which encouraged a lot of people to actually move sooner rather than later and take advantage of that. You've got low interest rates. You had furlough, people far too much time on their hands. Yep. Government help to buy, government-backed deposits. All of these things are adding to this mass movement of people. So I personally don't think that it's going to continue at the rate or pace that it has been over the last 12 to 18 months. I think that we will have a slowdown, and I think we will resume to more normal market conditions maybe around 2017, 2019,
yes.
just
Well, I suppose if you think about it, then what we've had is fairly strong upward trends and growth for the last probably 4 years, I would think, haven't we, in a way?
Yeah, I think
And
it's kind of
must be coming to an
it
end.
must be coming to an end. And while I think long-term property will always increase in value, and we've spoken about this many times, that property is a long-term game. That's, that's why we're in this game. I do think that we will start seeing a slowdown in the market, and data actually suggests that we're already seeing that as well. Just out of the first phase out of the stamp duty holiday, and people actually now spending all of that additional capital or cash that they put to one side. So I do think that we're going to see the trend change.
Are your agencies seeing this, John?
Absolutely, it's definitely slowed down. Mainly, some of that is demand, and some of that is not having the stock. But I mean, going forward, I agree with Hayley. For me, we've seen this many times, haven't we, Stephen? And Hayley, you've seen it a bit as well, I'm sure. And my view is that I'm pleased it's going to slow down, because we will get back to a normal market. It's so difficult to make money, genuinely make money out of this property market, developing and investing. It's easy. If you bought a house in Cornwall 4 years ago, everyone has said how clever you were, Hayley, which you are anyway, and you'd have doubled. You might have gone up 50%, and you've done absolutely nothing for that. With all due respect, absolutely nothing. And that's not property developing or investing. That's just getting lucky. So we want to be able to use our skills and our ability to make money in property, and it's very hard to do at the moment, because everyone's saying, well, bill costs are going up, of course, as well, but also, sale prices, where are they? Are they as high as some of the agents are saying? It's very difficult, very difficult market, and I've advised quite a few people, as you know, and my advice at the moment is, on the whole, sit on your hands. Let's just see what's going to happen towards the start of next year. If you find something in the meantime that's a great buy, fantastic. But next year will be a much more interesting market for developers and investors, in my view.
John, sorry, John, you mentioned the trends going forward. I know 2 or 3 years ago you started a development in Ipswich.
Yep.
You presumably would have planned out your sales rate and your expectations there. Has that met expectations in terms of performance?
The good news is we completed it on time and on schedule. Ta-da! That doesn't always happen.
And on budget?
And on budget.
Well,
so
even
that's even better. That's great. In terms of sales, we are slightly behind the curve, but we have had COVID. We've had Grenfell, of course, it's a high-rise block. 27 million quid's worth. We've sold we had 150 flats. We've sold 110, I think, completed. 40 to go. And of course, the one thing to remember with all these developments, it doesn't matter if you're doing 10 or you're doing 150 or 1,050. It's the last 20%, which is your profit, and which takes long to sell. The ones that are a bit weaker are the last to sell, clear, obviously, really. So that's your problem. And we're at that stage now, which sort of is a little bit of a boring stage. We've had the excitement of selling a lot of them and all the rest of it, and now we're grinding the last few out, if you get my meaning.
But it's always a good time for an investor to buy, isn't it? Either the first few in a development or the last few.
We can't take any discounts, so don't even think.
I was just going to say, I'll take the last 40
or Hayley.
at 15%.
Yeah, Hayley wants 20 and you want 10. We're done. We're out.
We'll make him a bid after, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. You're both all heart.
That's all right. That's what we're here for, John.
Yeah, thank you.
You know that. Okay, good. Great stuff. John, your second question. After the 210 crash, 100% mortgages virtually disappeared, and it's only now, mostly with government help or support, that they are back. Do the experts believe that a general reintroduction of this type of financing facility would help youngsters get on the property ladder and negate the need for taxpayer-supported purchase schemes, some of which could be viewed as being more helpful to developers than others?
I don't know why you're looking at me like that for, Stephen. Certainly the Help to Buy scheme, where 600,000 people, I think, have used the Help to Buy scheme. And it's been criticised by a number of people on the basis that some of the people who've used it didn't need it. I would say that it's been incredibly useful, but you have to remember that some of the bigger donors for the Conservative Party are
property developers and house builders. And I have to admit, I'm one of them. So the 95% mortgages, again, is very good news, guaranteeing 95% mortgages. I don't think it's healthy to go to 100% mortgages, because I think there's no commitment there from, there's no hurt factor. It's like doing any deal, isn't it? If you're doing a deal with someone and you're putting all the money in,
you want them to have skin in the game.
You want some skin in the game. It's a great word, skin in the game. You want some skin in the game. And of course, when everyone was getting 100% mortgages, and we've all benefited from that over the years, one way or the other, I don't think it's healthy for anyone not to have put anything in at all. The government are hell bent on supporting first-time buyers. They desperate to make sure that more people buy, because they know then they're going to, on the whole, tend to vote Tory at an election, and that's partly the issue. Why that might happen. The other thing they're trying to do, which is absolutely balmy in my view, is the latest news is that they want 100,000 people a year to build their own homes. Now, at the moment, 10,000 people build their own homes.
John, we've done all this before. What? Building your own homes. We did it down here in Docklands. Yeah. Docklands Development Corporation. Absolute disaster. Unmortgageable, unsafe.
Yeah.
Well,
it was dreadful.
It's just a joke to think that 100,000 people are going to build their own homes where they can only build 300,000 houses themselves. The Nationals. It's bonkers, absolute bonkers. Won't happen.
And who suggested this?
That's the new government line, and they're going to give a 40% extra grant available to people to build their own homes. It's just not going to happen. It's too complicated, Hayley, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, overall, the government's looking to make property investment and landlords and developers a more professional business, and then they're doing something that's the complete opposite. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, it's so hard to find the land to build your own home. It's so difficult to do.
Yeah,
crazy.
It'll just be an absolute disaster. I'm afraid construction today is very complex. You've got all the green issues to deal with. I mean, it's not easy. I think we have enough trouble with planners as it is.
Yeah.
You've got lay people making quite complex planning decisions now, which isn't always clever. I mean, I agree that the community should have a say in what goes on, of course, and that means they're elected representatives. But they've also got to know what they're doing.
But with the grant, you see, with the 40% grant available, government grant available, it may bring it up to 100% mortgage. It might do. But they also are going to identify pieces of land that they wouldn't normally give planning on, but they will give planning for self-build. That's the idea.
But that's ridiculous, because what if it's not suitable for one set of builders?
Why should it be suitable for another? I agree entirely with you. But going on to the 100%, that they will actually probably give 100% mortgages on those ones, if they can get any building societies or lending institutions to do it, of course.
Well, I think that's where it's fall down. I mean, I was talking to a very big agent here on Friday, and they've sold virtually nothing in Canary Wharf for the last few months because of these EWS1 forms.
The cladding forms.
And it's only now that because the developers have taken government grants and things, it's now starting to happen. Surveyors are starting to say, okay, well, if we know you've got the grant, we know you're going to do the work, we'll issue the certificate.
Yeah, they're mortgageable.
But it has caused a problem. I mean, can you imagine the problems over safety and stuff with self-built homes? I mean, it's just going to be absolutely crazy.
Well, only 10,000 people do it in this country. In Germany, it's 42% or something. Hugely.
Is it really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that happening in Birmingham? Do you think they'll encourage it there?
Fancy doing it?
I wouldn't even attempt to, like I said, no, I think it's a terrible idea, and I don't think it'll fly, to be honest.
Where do the government get these ideas from?
Well, they are trying at all costs to take the control away from the 10 big house builders who control 70% of the housing market, new homes market.
So give the smaller developers an easier time.
So what they should do is give us an easier time.
Yeah, exactly.
Give us the money, and then we'll do it, won't we, Hayley?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you see, they've got, with the rental market, they've gone in reverse, haven't they? So we don't want the smaller, what they call
PRS
accidental
companies.
landlords.
Yeah.
Don't want them. We want big institutions. We want the insurance companies, and we want, John Lewis to buy homes.
I mean, how naive is that to think John Lewis are going to convert the upstairs of their property? I mean, it's crazy.
Well, there we are. I think that's all we've got time
So the
for
answer to that
today.
is no, by the way.
Okay, right.
A firm no.
Very good, John. We finally got an answer.
We got there.
Okay. Well, Hayley Andrews, thank you very much for coming
Thank you for
down and
having me.
contributing to the programme today. John Howard, same to you.
Pleasure, as
In
always.
from Ipswich. Hope everything's good there. And
Everything's great
the
there.
sun's shining.
Yeah, sun's shining.
So there we are. I'm Stephen Galpin. Join me again next time on Property Question Time.